Hello and welcome to Lightways at Life Astrologer with me, Anna Isabel. And it is a great pleasure to have Eric Tecce on with me today.
Hello, hello. Yes, yes. It's a pleasure to be here with you. Really excited because we're like in a motion right now of like Mars and Pluto squaring, and it's like giving this motion to really actively look into the reflection of transformation. So I think this conversation today should be something that's opening, regardless of any technological, you can say offsets. I don't know, but we go with the flow.
Yeah, technological bumps. We've had a few before we started recording, so let's see what happens. No more hiccups, hopefully, but here we are. So, the reason you are here today is because I am aware, and I'm just going to share the screen for a moment, um, because I just want everyone to see the beautiful um, cards that you have created. So, I'm just about to share.
Well,
Okay,
just
so,
in case, we have them right
and you
here
have them
to
right
help
there.
carry you over.
The low tech version, always better. So you've created this beautiful set of oracle cards, amongst which are the Astro-Herbal oracle deck. And I think it's just the beauty of them that caught my eye, such artistry. We're looking at one about elderberry at the moment. And I guess
Mhm.
my first question is, Eric, um, why did you decide to create these?
I would say it started maybe a decade ago. I knew I was always going to create a tarot deck. Come 2015, 16, 17, I worked on that and released it. And ever since then, about 2020, I launched a nonprofit to create educational artisan tools. And I wanted to embed my own illustration to carry ideas and concepts that's not easily educated on. So one of the ideas I started with was Edward Bach's flower essences, and that spawned into a series of ideas and concepts I wanted to explore, from herbalism to the flower essences to auras to metals to crystals. And I still have this mindset to explore it all. But luckily, since then, I've been able to create 126 illustrations that are all based off medicinal plants and flower essences. So it started with exploring just flower essences, and undergoing an injury in 2022 gave me the firsthand experience to dive into herbalism, the type of solutions available to us by nature. And most of them are even just around us. I had so many plants I studied that just ended up being in and around my property I live on, that I was so surprised how nature works this way. It just provides you not only the lessons, but the opportunities to heal yourself, to come whole once more. And it opened my eyes that I wanted to convey this art. By illustrating it, I studied how the plant itself, I can now identify it. By working with the plant, it communicated with me, passing on information. And then through my previous studies and experience, I provided an astrological lens to carry not only the processes of what the plants do, but how they help and assist us, not just by its nature, but how it communicates, which what you can say the spectrum of the cycle.
It's really lovely because you're talking about getting to know the plant through um, through art, through really concentrating on drawing it. And it's funny because I have in no way anything near your talent, but I have done exactly the same thing through the years. I have drawn plants because it's my way of connecting with the plant and getting to know it. So I can completely relate to what you're talking about in terms of getting to know a plant through the relationship that you build with it. So in my case here, I was using sacred, I've been using sacred oils. And these are my notes about the plant from a botanical perspective, the herbal uses that are known for it, but then the spiritual connection with the plant and how I'm using it in that sense for healing and how it helps me and clients, etc. So this is I really love that process that you are describing. And I'm just going to share the screen.
Okay. I think a lot of the things too, while we have this little moment, is you brought up when we take notes, when we're in a class, when we embody an experience, we create a muscle memory and also a moment for us to tie the waters within us to an event to store memory. So when we take notes, when we draw, when we explore the idea with intention, I think we tap into to connect to the resonance, and it connects to us based off the symbols we have to work with. Like astrology gives us a lens of the individual. We each have a unique asset and perspective that can view the plant and the experience and how we process and embody it to then carry it forward.
Are you able to see the screen right now?
Yes, I can.
Okay, good. So this is an example, which at first glance seems an odd pairing. So you have the rock rose there, um, and then you have it linked with Venus. But what's odd about it is that you have it also linked with Scorpio. Um, so talk us through that process, because this is the thing is that some of your pairings um, may not necessarily be what people are expecting if they have studied medical and
Yes.
herbal astrology. So how have you ever arrived at this? I'm assuming this is something the reflection of your experience with it. So tell us about that.
So, what was unique about this deck is that the astrological lens used to perceive the plants is different from medical astrology. I looked into that based off my injury, and a lot of the constructs of medical astrology give us the associations from head to toe. They give us the connections to the process of the body, which is great for understanding the individual. But when we want to understand the process of the plant, it's not just matching them up for a synchronicity to work with us, it's to understand the process of the plant, how it communicates. For example, the flower essences, they deal a lot with emotional healing. So it's not just a body function that you are meeting the construct to communicate. This is more the essence of the flower. It understands the imprint through your watery field. So it connects and communicates the information. So the way that we work with the essences might not be the same as just, let's say we pick up a plantain leaf to heal a wound. We can use that based off astrology for like the physical body or even the chakra system. But when we want to understand how this plant works, how this plant operates in reality, it's like a dandelion. One of the examples I use is that it has this Piscean nature to it, that it allows its seeds to traverse the air and continue on, to release itself, to not only transform, but to continue on. So the uniqueness of using a planet gives us the sense of where it fits in the field. And then we have the zodiac that gives us the spectrum of where it's happening in a cycle. So when you look at the element, this overall gives the direction of where it's oriented. So each one gives a little bit of information using the same systems that an astrologer could use, or just astronomy through the planets and the elements. Even symbols of the tarot can give us the same concept, but we're utilizing a system in place. Like astrology, been around thousands of years, gives us the concepts of the philosophical understanding of nature without being directly tied to the nature we experience here. It's through us and through the events that we understand these connections of what light is. So when we use these systems, we can communicate functions within our earthly presence, our field, our experience that give us those same lessons. And it makes me think when I explored the tarot, I spent a good, decent amount of time on the major arcana. But each card, as it was being developed, you tend to embody and see the symbolism more often when you become aware of it. I know people who buy a vehicle and then they start to see it everywhere. So it's like that kind of concept. Maybe it's attraction to attraction, but it's us becoming aware of that particular light. So we notice that detail more.
In this particular card, you have, as we've said, it's the rock rose, it's Venus. You have the association with Scorpio, and then there is the little note, something to do with the essence of it. Be brave. So it's linked with fear, as you feel it. So, what is it about the rock rose that led you to Venus, to Scorpio, and then to the reminder to be brave?
So the symbols that came from specifically the flower essences, Edward Bach, he investigated how we can have these offsets of emotions and that these flower essences can help harmonize us back on track. Now, he provided more of a problem for solution. This is the other side of that coin. So when I chose Be Brave, I transformed the concept of why it delivers its essence to give a more positive affirmation. What's its positive attribute? Instead of seeing something, let's complete the whole, let's see the beauty in the gift it has. So I took that. And then when I took the Venusian perspective, that is the way it connects. It connects through one another. It's the connection of how we listen. And then when we have a scorpionic sense, this is going to the depth. This is looking at what we don't always want to see, but is a part of the spectrum. It gives us the idea to see the shadow. It incorporates it. And then when you can embody it with an element, it fermates it. So like you have the earth given a solidarity, while the fire is transmutive, it transformative. So when you want to work with this essence, you want to see that it keeps you together. It goes to the depths, but it allows you to listen to those depths. And then when we're being brave of fear, that shadow that we are scared of, it gives us the ability to overcome and to go beyond that in that one
What
card.
I can appreciate is that we have our traditional body of astrology,
Mhm.
which is what we are familiar with. And and more recently, of course, the more psychological take on the symbolism of astrology. But we also seem to have some offshoots that are much more intuitive, and some of it uh, channeled, in fact. So there is this other side where we're looking at the symbols from an intuitive perspective, which I think is why I felt drawn to your work, because this there is something else here which is playing with tradition in a sense. And I think that's always good to have that structure, and 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 play with that structure and keep that solid, but then play with it as well, because this is, I think, a way of opening doors to new perspectives and new insights, which is always a good way to grow and learn.
I agree. And to add to what you're saying, I think astrology as a lens has become so valuable as a set of symbols. just like the tarot can provide a set of symbols or divination. And even the use of these set of symbols, we can communicate so much with what even is happening now, let alone other times, other aspects, even relationships to the functions of nature can come to light. And with astrology, we look at the Western model where we see the sun tuned to the season, and we look at a geosolar relation of applying the zodiac to tell us the communication of how much the light is breathing into our own environment. And then when you look at more of the Vedic or the sidereal, you look at the constellations, the source of that light coming to reach us. So you have these different measurements, but the same systems. Sometimes you can measure it exactly to a constellation, and then you can take it, see the structures of the divisions, see the cycle and the patterns that relate to it all, and arrived at the houses. We have the house system to help communicate that order. So when we use the zodiac like a house system, we can measure it whether it's to the moon, to the sun, or to the stars. And in this case, I measured it to the plants. So it gives me a sense to share how this symbol, how this process, how this nature by nature can communicate that same principle without giving it a direct, structured understanding. It's an exploration. And even though there was a book to be involved with this, it didn't come to fruition because this is a more feminine exploration. Because I can recognize that my illustrative roots come from my Italian side, but my Puerto Rican side comes this native curiosity of the plants, of working with it. So this is definitely an ancestral, intuitive process of why I'm drawn to create this. But my position, my angles of light, of how it all plays out, I think that's one of the most intuitive, feminine processes that unfolds itself. It shows you to trust the process. And I think that's what nature does best.
So, how do you see your decks being used?
Well, the decks themselves, there's only 40. I did not print any more than that because it's self-published. And whenever I publish a deck, whether it's my previous Shadowlight Tarot or this set collection of Astro-Herbal, it's all crowdfunded. So I try to make sure I do all the art, all the video, all the capturing to bring this work of art as an expression of art itself. I didn't just want to illustrate the work. I wanted it to be something you treasured, something you kept. You can learn from it, you can use it. I love picking up the flower essences one because this specific one, I put B with each of the verbiage. So it's an expression of what to tap into. So I can open this right now to a random card and be true, agrimony. I love that saying, be true. It's inspired my other saying, which is stay true, which is honoring your nature. So when we honor that nature, our natural gifts come out. And these are tools to help us rediscover ourselves or aspects that we may not always consider. Divination gives us so many ways to communicate with universe by just chance. So creating this collection is a collection of symbols, not only to study from, to learn from, to give guidance from, but also to, not only through nature. And then with these cards, I also included additional cards that are the zodiac. They're probably a little more challenging to see, but I also included charts. Here you'll see the body, as well as various forms of the stream, as well as the structure. So we see that these can be used not only just for divination, but to learn to appreciate the art. I made sure every one of these plants, even the zodiac cards, were all illustrated by hand. I even recorded and provided a time lapse for people to see in person what it's like to how these blossom into being. And I think there's just something to it. It's more than just magic. It's like embodying your soul into the art you create with your hand. So when creating all this art, this is my heart work. This is something that may blossom into something more, but in this moment is 40 deck, or I should say a 40 set collection that is these trio of decks. And I wanted to embody this because if I was to continue this, I would, might even explore mushrooms and edible medicinal mushrooms, which some are included in this. And each deck, too, I should bring up too. One focuses more on forage nature, one on culinary, and then the third one on flower essences. So it was a way to take this collection and make it more manageable. So you can work with just the flower essences, or you can understand the culinary set of these plants that can help us and heal us. Obviously, nature is so diverse and wide that I cannot embody all the plants that heal and help us. But the ones I was able to develop a communication with and a relationship with and understand enough to give back through my work, through my art, this what embodied it.
So, how do you feel that using your decks might be helpful? We know how it works. You just
Mhm.
pick a card, and the card is meant to speak to you in the moment to tell you something. So how do you see this as being helpful?
So the practical aspect of it gives us an opener. We're exposed to the ideas, the concepts of these plants. Like I said, I initially wanted to propose a book, but the degree of perfectionism I have as somebody with a sixth house Venus and Sun, and even a Lilith, wants to deliver the best it can be. And this accompanied probably the last year with a gradual build up to it just to dedicate to bring this. So if I do a book, it will explore even more for people to learn each of these. But this is a stepping stone to give us tools to work with. It can provide us insight. There might be something to the plant that we can take internally that can assist us. There might be a message about the plant itself. So the way we utilize it is much like nature. Isn't always a function, but it's the way we communicate our symbols. It's the way we communicate the language of our nature with nature. And when you create a system like a deck of cards, it provides you something to express itself through, like an alphabet. It gives a structure so that we can then communicate. So when we give structure to universe, now universe has the language of plants, has the universe of astrological imprints and symbols to aid an extended understanding of that. And then when we use the words to describe a benefit or a concept, we get that even further because how do we have that word mean something to us? Maybe we were told it too much as a child, and we have an even more imprint of that that connects us to a symbol. So it's not always just a literal sense, it's how we individually can then use the symbols, how to understand ourselves is ultimately what all these tools are for, even astrology. Once you know who you are, why be anyone else? It's your nature, it's your gift.
It's for those who have not ventured to play with oracle cards. Um, it's not something that it's not my primary um, tool, if I can put it like that. However, here's how I use them. When I'm working as a therapist at the end of a session, I want to give my clients something that is going to help them or stimulate thought, if I can put it that way. And then, and so I have a few different decks that they can choose. And so they choose the deck and then they pick a card And inevitably, the card reflects exactly the themes that we have been working through for 2 hours and
Hmm.
encourages them to take that positive work that we've done and really allow that to seep in and embed itself before our next session. And that's where I absolutely love them, is that they're always a point of reinforcement and inspiration that my clients take away. And it's turned into, I've only been doing it for maybe 6 months, but it's turning into one of the favorite things that my clients enjoy about our sessions. So it's like the little, it's like the pudding at the end of a really good meal.
Yeah.
It just allows that to happen. And so so I can see exactly what you're saying, and I think it's wonderful. So it's just to, I think we need to tell everyone how they might be able to get one of these 40 sets that you've got.
Yes, yes. Okay, so half of them had already been claimed. I shipped them all out last week, and so far they've arrived everywhere. Some are still shipping because they're global shipping. But for those who still would like a copy of any of these, I sell the set on my website and in my shop, which can be found at erictecce.com. ERICTECCE.com. You'll find my art, you'll find Astro-Oracle, you'll find Shadowlight Tarot, and the videos that explore all this, the time lapse that creates all of it. You'll find a little bit of everything. And if you're drawn to this particular set of cards, I have about, like I said, less than 20 available and can ship them out myself and give a little signature and thank you note just to make sure to let you know that this is something from a creator, something that came from someone with passion and heart. Because to me, I respect it so much. I respect art. And even as you said with the Oracle cards, it's not just what we can bring to the table, but when universe adds its own little droplet of flavor into the experience, we give something more to it because it's not just directed from us. It's a communication of the experience. It's the cards themselves giving us the idea to acknowledge synchronicity. And by doing that, we open up the ability to reflect. Universe can reflect to us the experience that we're having within external, which is wonderful. It gives us the guidance, connections to heal. And it goes always beyond that because it's an imprint. It's one way to be told, but another for it to just come up by chance opens up, I guess, the feminine side of understanding that gives something to the heart.
Perfect. And so I'll be sure to put a link to your website in the description box, and everyone can just get get going on exploring your wonderful work. Eric, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been a pleasure to connect with you. I always admire all that you do, and you express so much for universe to connect people with so many ideas and concepts that I think we can look at the concept of divination or oracles, and then you look at us, these tools of universe. You provide yourself the ability to give messages to a global scale through the way we communicate by our nature. And one of the things with these cards is through nature, by nature, for nature. And we do that so beautifully already that I think exploring who we are and our gifts is the best thing we could ever do. So thank you for providing your gift to being.
Oh, wow. That's well, I think I might blush in a minute, but thank you very much, Eric. And uh, just everyone, this is a lovely, lovely work to explore. So do check out the website. And thank you once again, Eric. And until next time, I wish you a great week. We will be looking at Mercury and siblings. Until then, goodbye.
Take care.